What's up, everyone? Sean here, and welcome to my rapid fire review with featuring Spider-Man Far From Home. I always call it Far Away From Home for some reason, but Far From Home, which is the sequel to Spider-Man's Homecoming from the MCU. So, this was one of the less anticipated films, admittedly, if I'm going to be honest about it. Just because there were just other films that I really was looking forward to, like Godzilla and Toy Story and all that, and of course Endgame. So this, as soon as this was announced, I was and knew that this was supposed to be the last chapter and not Endgame. I was just really weirded out. I just felt weird. Really, like I just didn't really didn't know what to think of this film initially. Just from looking at the trailer too, with Jake Gyllenhaal and all that stuff. But I watched the film a couple nights ago now, as I record this, and I went by myself. It was a solo session in a theater, and there were a couple of people. It was a Monday night, again by myself. So. Danny wanted to go see it too, but he is currently busy at the moment, so that's why I am doing the rapid fire review for this movie anyway. So anyway, enough talk. What I think of the film overall, I thought it was actually just decent, if that is the right word for it. I mean, there were some good moments that I liked in the film. But I don't know. Some things were bothering me about the film itself as a whole. I think it might be just the teen oriented comedy. I mean, this is coming from high school character or characters from high school. But I don't know. Even then, like sometimes you can do some really good writing with that. But something about this was not sitting right with me in the theater. As I was watching the film, and it just kind of took away from my enjoyment of the film. And even during the action sequences through most throughout the films, mostly, or film, excuse me, I just couldn't enjoy it or bring myself to enjoy it as much as I did with the previous Marvel films, or even with Homecoming. I think overall, like if I'm gonna compare this to Homecoming, I think I enjoyed Homecoming a lot better, just because it was just way more enjoyable. I like the comedy there for some reason. I probably have to rewatch the film, but I don't know. I just felt like the comedy here just it kind of fell short for half of them at least. There are some ones where I did crack up a bit, but it's definitely hard to say that it's a very good film or it'll blow off your socks or anything. I hope it's not to the point where now MCU films start to or start to overstay its welcome. Maybe the next Guardians of the Galaxy film will be the real test of that. But I feel like Far From Home kind of came short for me overall. So it was something I saw coming for the majority of the twists. Obviously, the ones for the post-credit scenes. Yes, there are post-credit scenes. So stick around after the credits and stuff like that, and mid credits and stuff like that. There are some scenes after the ending of the movie, which it's weird because I actually started to really enjoy it once the twist happens. That's where it starts to get enjoyable. But all the stuff with the teens, the students, the actual trip itself, I could kind of care less. Once Mysterio shows up, it started to get interesting. I don't know. I think the whole thing with the trip itself was something deterring or steering me away from enjoying the film. That could be it. So that is pretty much my thoughts in short, or my overall review in short thought. So without really spoiling things, I did enjoy the visual effects especially by the end of the film, or by the end, the final like sequence. That was really good, I felt. So the action is definitely there. It's just the rest, the story, like there's a lot of feel in the story. I felt. I feel like the whole like school trip thing again. It was just like something that was steering me away from giving this film a higher score. I felt. I think that's like the weakness overall. It made it into a teen comedy, like vacation sort of genre of the film, like you would see in like Euro Trip or something like that. Any teen comedy, I don't know. That's the kind of vibe I was kind of given, I thought, and it didn't just land perfectly in my opinion. But the actual like Spider-Man sequences, yeah, obviously those were good, and the twists, yeah, again, I saw coming. It's like pretty predictable, and yeah, so that is sort of like the cherry on top. But I think overall the shortcomings really come from the whole school trip itself. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. That's just how I felt about it. So I'll definitely talk more in the spoiler section, just to kind of clear things up a little more. Talk about the parts I liked, actually. But for the most part, it's still a decent MCU film. If you like MCU films, you still get some enjoyment out of it. So check it out in the theater as soon as you can. If you like Jake Gyllenhaal, he did great as Mysterio, I think, in my opinion. Tom Hollington, or excuse me, Tom Holland. If you like him, you'll continue to enjoy him as Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man himself was good. Mysterio was good. Nick Fury was great as always. It's Samuel Jackson, so you can't really go wrong. Happy was okay. And it's just, I don't know. My expectations were in the middle, and they're kind of not met all the way, unfortunately. So again, I think it's just the whole like school trip thing. The parts with the students wasn't really doing it for me. So if this was done, this entire film was done in a different way, maybe I might have been a little happier. But overall, I think it's still decent for what it is. I still enjoyed it. My time, I felt, wasn't entirely wasted. So with all that said, without really spoiling things, I would give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's a pretty appropriate score. The visual effects were really good. The action scenes were pretty good. Mysterio, I enjoyed. Spider-Man himself, I enjoyed. All the important Marvel characters, I enjoyed. Mary Jane was okay or decent at that at most, but again, just I do have some issues with like what they're going with Spider-Man in the first place, especially with the casting for some characters. But that might be another video. But anyway, Far From Home just came a little short, I must say, unfortunately. So hopefully that's just the case with Far From Home, and hopefully that doesn't really carry over to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I hope that the novelty of the MCU films are still strong, I guess, by that time. And hopefully, Endgame wasn't like the last really good Marvel film at that. So yeah, that's without spoiling things, that's how I feel about Spider-Man Homecoming, or excuse me, Far From Home. So after this, I will go into the spoilers section. So be right back. All right, so we are back for spoiler talk. I do want to talk about 3 main points when it comes to spoilers, and maybe fill out the rest with like maybe parts of the film that I actually enjoyed. Maybe I didn't really enjoy. We'll see about that. Let's go through the main points. One main point and probably the most important one, of course, is Mysterio himself. So if you guys were really confused of where Mysterio was going in this film, it's pretty predictable. If you guys know about Mysterio, he is a villain, and he is always a villain. So he is a villain indeed in this film. So when I was a kid, I always thought that Mysterio used magic, but I didn't realize that he was a special effects artist, which I guess in a way worked for me when, I was a kid. The whole point of special effects is to kind of fool someone into thinking that it's some sort of powerful magic or something, but it turns out, it's an illusion, obviously. He's kind of like a high-tech scarecrow, if you're really gonna make a comparison to a DC hero, I guess. Scarecrow kind of comes to mind because illusions, and also he uses gas in the classic format of Spider-Man anyway. But in this film, obviously that doesn't really happen. I think it's mostly just digital technology with holograms. What do you know? So yeah, it turns out the whole thing with Mysterio fighting the elementals, those giant spirit elemental things, were fake. They were all a digital hologram illusion thing via technology that was from yours truly, Stark Industries. So, Quentin Beck was an employee who worked under Tony Stark, and he was the one who invented this like massively advanced hologram technology where he was able to render, Stark was able to render his younger self. And he named it something else rather than Barth. I think Barth was supposed to be the original name for the product, but he named it Edith later on, I think. And at some point, he got fired for it. Or not for it, but he got fired at some point. So Mr. Beck, as he was called earlier, is the villain, and his motive is because he was fired by Stark himself, I guess, and he wants revenge, and he wanted to be one to be chosen as the next Iron Man or next Tony Stark or whatever, or the successor for Tony Stark, because we all know what happened with Endgame. So yeah, but instead it was Spider-Man. And he wanted to get back at him for, being chosen over him. You know what I mean? So, Quentin Beck came up with a crazy idea along with other scientists and smart people, I guess you can say, technologists, to help forge this whole plan involving with the Mysterio that we all fans know, or at least hardcore fans definitely know, but or a casual watcher like me who watched the cartoons, like the Spider-Man cartoons from the 90s that aired on Fox Kids. That's where I got a lot of my Spider-Man material from, and I saw Mysterio there, and I always thought he used magic, as a kid. But that I think that's the whole point of it, is that he's pretending to be like that magician or sorcerer. And definitely that kind of happened in this film. And when the twist happened, I saw it coming, but I liked the way they did it, because it really made him like that sleazeball, in contrast of being, the very nice guy or mentor sort of figure that he was acting towards Peter. And when this twist happens, it made it all the more, juicy. It definitely made him like a pretty good villain, like you love to hate him sort of thing. And so and so by that definition, I think he was a pretty good villain at that. So he's definitely that corporal like sleazeball that wanted to get Tony's glasses, because that's the key to the technology that Tony left behind, and that's kind of like it acts like the crown for the successor, and so on and so forth. So yeah, the glasses were the important bit here, the important artifact in this film, because they let you activate, the satellite from space, and let you pretty much a lot of things, including hacking and deleting images, um, stuff like that. Accessing information. You have the power of technology literally in your glasses, and Peter did not want any of that because he wanted to live a normal life at some point. Which, yeah, I mean, it is a relatable sort of thing because we all have paths to choose, and sometimes we all want to just take it easy and just live a normal, easy, safe life, right? But sometimes you have to answer to the call of duty, and in this case, when Mysterio revealed his true colors, that's when Peter realized he is kind of the only one who can stop and be the next hero, I guess. That's kind of like Iron Man, but there was some point where Happy said no one can be like Iron Man, not even Tony can be Iron Man, because he always second guessed his decisions. He always had a hard time himself too. And Happy kind of pointed out that, hey, no one is perfect. We all go through hard times, blah, blah, blah. When Peter was at his lowest point. Those parts I really enjoyed. Like I said earlier, when the twist happened, I think that's where the film got more enjoyable because, it really sets off the illusions and stuff like that. It really shows off what Mysterio is about, just really messing with the mind, just cloaking himself within the illusions and messing with Peter Parker or Spider-Man, and he couldn't use his spider senses at the time because he just didn't know what to do. He was super overly emotionally just distraught against these illusions, and these illusions were really good. Even if they're heavily digitized, and sure, I mean, it works because they're supposed to be digital illusions anyway. And the way they did it was just really cool. Even if they are super digital as hell, they look really cool. So I definitely enjoyed all the illusions and stuff like that Spider-Man had to go through. And it was just really clever and just kind of, in ways, like it is threatening in a way because you never know when it ends. You think it has that battle has ended, but no, it really continues still. And there was one part where you think Mysterio was shot by Nick Fury, but Nick Fury was all along, or was just not a real Nick Fury, and then it was just more of Mysterio all along. So. Stuff like that was actually really cool in my opinion. It's just, the whole thing with the school trip was kind of turning me off. So, obviously Mysterio, he's a bad guy and all. And there is nothing about the alternate Earth thing being real even. Like they came up, he and his crew came up with all that. And in a way, I think it's really interesting because Quentin started to become like Tony Stark, and not in a positive way, but I felt like he was gonna take all the credit. He was doing the same exact thing like a lot of bosses do, which is when someone makes an invention and the spokesperson presents it, they try to perceive it as their own, and I think at some point. Quentin was gonna do that, and he was definitely the dictator of the group. He was very manipulative, controlling. He wanted he was a tyrant, and that does make me feel more entertained in that sense because it makes me think like, hey, this guy is starting to become the thing that he hated, and on that part, I think that's really cool. So that's why I give it that score, 7.5. Not entirely a lower score or anything like that, but it's just a good chunk of it was just not really enjoyable. Hey, the whole school trip thing, I don't know. I wasn't really buying it. So, and yes, by the end of it, Mysterio dies, he gets shot, just like a lot of the MCU villains. They just really don't live more than one film, do they? Except for Thanos. You know, he's really the only one, I guess. So, um, it's just, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate because that really means that the Sinister Six isn't gonna have Mysterio unless it's gonna be another Mysterio and someone will take the mantle. Um, which does, I don't know. There are clues to that. I don't know because one of his crew members, maybe the guy with the glasses, he was bald. I forgot his name, but he was the one who got yelled at by the original villain from the first Iron Man film, which kind of is nice because you get to see that. It's kind of a nice little throwback, so that's kind of cool. Um, so you see him, and he takes the USB. He like kind of makes a copy on the file and runs with it because their game is up. It's over. Quentin is dying. And pretty much the whole Mysterio thing is dead. So he is probably the next Mysterio, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. I think Mysterio as a whole is kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of a different take on the whole Scarecrow sort of type of villain. Illusions, trying to mess with the mind, that sort of villain. I don't know. It felt like it worked here, for what it was, and Jake Gyllenhaal definitely landed that role or nailed that role pretty nicely. So if for those who love Jake Gyllenhaal, I feel like they've got their treat. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, at least those parts were really enjoyable. Yeah, but again, the whole school thing. I keep repeating myself about that, but I can't help it. That's just that it's a big part of the film, and I just couldn't enjoy the big part of the film. So I don't know. I mean, Spider-Man is in high school. What can you expect? I guess. I don't know, man. It's just maybe it's some characters that really bother me, like Flash Thompson. I really don't want to get into the whole thing with the actor's not white or anything. He's a minority, whatever. But I don't know. Flash Thompson, it's just none of his trademarks make it in there, and his skin color has nothing to do with it. His race has nothing to do with it. Flash Thompson, he's supposed to be like an athletic, built, sort of physical bully. But with this Flash Thompson, he's just sleazy. He just throws out words. He doesn't really do any. I don't think he does anything physical. I don't remember from the first film. He might have done it. I don't know. But he doesn't really come off as intimidating or anything like that on the physical level. He's just all words pretty much, or most words. He's kind of like a Chihuahua pretty much. Maybe a rich Chihuahua. I don't know, but I forget the actor's name who played the Asian dude who was blipped. I guess, which does remind me. They talked about the whole blip versus what do you call the what was the other one? It was like Dustin versus blip or something. I don't know. It was just weird. They actually came up with the term for people who came back or something like that. I think that's the correct term for it, or correct use of the term. Please correct me if I'm wrong. For those who watched the film, correct me in the comment section below. I'm obviously without spoiling it or anything, but yeah, they talked about that for a bit, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting, but yeah, that's kind of beside the point. There was that guy. He had that Asian look to him. I felt like he would have been the better Flash Thompson, and he's not even white. The point is that he has all the traits of what Flash Thompson was. He was, physically well built, athletic. He's chiseled, dashing, handsome, and he could have definitely played, that cocky sort of person, which Flash Thompson was, especially towards Peter. If seen Flash Thompson from the past material, so that's just my issue with it, with the direction of the casting of Spider-Man. But that's probably for another video. But back on Far From Home, overall, I think they handled Mysterio the best they could, modernizing him and all that stuff. I kind of wish they threw some references of him being a magician or stuff like that, but they got most of his traits. So I like the costume. I found it believable with the whole digital technology sort of integration thing. I think that's pretty much what he did in the cartoons. On top of the gas that he used. But yeah. Well, yeah. Overall, I like Mysterio for what he was. I thought he was a pretty good villain. So it was a good part of the film. So there was that really long speech of Quentin, after he fooled Peter into giving him the glasses. It was pretty clever. I have to admit that the way they did it. It was a pretty good, well-written part on that. So I do like that. So, but yeah. Anyways, yeah. The first spoiler, Quentin being the villain all along, Mysterio, of course, and it sucks because he's dead. So that Quentin is dead. So, who knows if another Mysterio will appear or Mysterio will be part of the Sinister Six at all? Because he's supposed to be like the original Sinister Six, but I guess not. If the MCU will try to do a Sinister Six, so I don't know. We'll have to see about that. It'll probably not have Mysterio, unfortunately. So yeah, I guess we'll go on to the next part of the spoilers. And I want to talk about this one with Mary Jane now knowing Spider-Man or Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I feel like this is very fulfilling. I thought this was done, for the most part well. So her, kind of like predicting or kind of guessing Peter Parker being Spider-Man was pretty funny for the most part. It's like it sounded like she knew what she was talking about, but she was just making a wild guess pretty much. And I thought that whole thing was pretty funny in that sense. So but yeah, at the end of things, it is really fulfilling, and it feels good that Mary Jane knows now about Spider-Man. So that's pretty cool. So it's this Mary Jane, obviously it's very different, pretty dark, and it's just different, obviously on a physical and personality trait sort of level. But for what it is, I do like this Mary Jane. I kind of wish, honestly, it was a original character, kind of like Ned. I think Ned is an original character, right, for the MCU, if I'm correct. And I do like him. He brings some good laughs to the table, right? But I don't know. Maybe Mary Jane is a mixed bag. Like, yeah, it is cool that Mary Jane is drastically different, but on the other hand, why not just make this character just an original character altogether? It's just so different from what we're used to with the original Mary Jane. Mary Jane always had red hair. Mary Jane was always like, kind-hearted, very gentle, like very angel-like, I guess, for Peter, and that's why Peter fell in love with her, just because of that. But I don't know. I guess they just didn't want to do that. They just want to just rehash Mary Jane, or just I don't know. They just want to take that to a different direction. But I guess if Stanley doesn't really have a problem, then I don't know. I guess it really isn't an issue. But I don't know. That's another video, I guess, for me to talk about. But anyway, so yeah, Mary Jane knows about Spider-Man. So yeah, that was a pretty well done part, in my opinion. So I think for the most part, I think that is all settled. And there was that part with Mary Jane, swinging with Spider-Man, and being scared for the most part. I don't think she would really enjoyed it. Let's take for example, the Sam Raimi films of Spider-Man. Mary Jane pretty much was able to enjoy it. She just had that smile on her face. She's just she just loved, being with Spider-Man or Peter Parker or whatever. It it looked very gentle in comparison to this one. It's a much more realistic take on what's it like to be swinging around with someone like Spider-Man. It would probably be very scary for someone, doing it for their first time, especially for a high school girl. So I felt that was a pretty funny part, the way, the actress, played it out. I think that that was well performed on that part. So I do like that. So, that whole sequence with, Mary Jane knowing Spider-Man, I think that was pretty well done for the most part. Not that it would like blow your socks off or anything like that, but hey, it's satisfying, I would say. Last part I would like to talk about when it comes to spoilers is the post-credit scenes, I believe, or the ending at least. I think it wasn't one of the scenes is from the ending, but anyway, one of the ending parts, let's just say, had freaking J. Jonah Jameson with yours truly, J.K. Simmons. I could not believe it. They actually brought him back from the Sony Pictures, a version of Spider-Man, and he is back as Joe Jonah Jameson. He is perfect. He is that character, and they know it, man. He's still able to nail that character down. I mean, there is some age to him, of course, but I think that does not stop him from being JJ, man. That was such a cool part. I think that's honestly my most favorite part in the entire movie. I love that guy. He is such a, he is such a jerk towards Spider-Man. He just really, really is, going after him. He wants to, tarnish his name and everything. He's kind of like, I guess he is kind of like the Alex Jones of the Spider-Man world, or Spider-Man universe, and the whole like thing with the dailybeagle.net or .tv thing, it was perfect. So he is kind of like he would fit in that role, if he would be probably like a podcaster on YouTube that talks, mad political agendas type of stuff and mad trash or mad shit against, Spider-Man. So if Spider-Man was real, he'd be that kind of guy. So yeah, in our world, he would be Alex Jones in a way, but probably more likable. I don't know. That's pretty hard to say, but nonetheless, I love that part. It was great. It was such a nice throwback. I hope he makes it in more of these films for Spider-Man. If there's going to be more Spider-Man films, assumingly, I think there will, but we'll have to see about that. But at least we get to see some of it, something like that here, which is really cool. And before that, I believe there was a edited tape or footage of Spider-Man killing Quentin Beck / Mysterio, and they try to paint Spider-Man as the villain. Of course, it looked really obvious that it was fake. So maybe in the next film, there's gonna be someone, or there's gonna be this group that sticks with Spider-Man or the Avengers in general and try to like break down the film and try to like fight back for Spider-Man in a way. There's those people out there on YouTube that will like break down these videos and try to like go against the evidence or whatever, try to like say or try to debunk the evidence in some way. So it will be an interesting start to the film, I guess, or a plot point in the film for the next film of Spider-Man. I like to see where this goes, but yeah, not only that, the whole world, thanks to Mysterio or Quentin, revealed Peter Parker's name along with Spider-Man's. So the whole world knows Spider-Man as Peter Parker. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Just like how Tony Stark revealed himself to be Iron Man. And he, of course, did not care. He wanted the whole world to know that he is Iron Man. But Spider-Man, kind of the opposite. And now had to, see it that way, I guess. And it kind of sucks for him. But, all that hard work of hiding his identity. And now Mysterio here is kind of just ruined it potentially. So it's really up to the people in that world or in that universe for them to believe it or not, or like again that whole like pro Avenger or pro Spider-Man group would come in and say, hey, this is fake. You can't really see Peter Parker's face or something like that. This piece of footage should be declassified as nothing at that point. So we'll see about that. It would be a really interesting, potentially interesting point for the next film of Spider-Man. So, really, other than that, there is really not much to say. Oh, right. There's the whole thing with Nick Fury. There was the thing with the Skrulls. So Nick Fury, as we saw in the film, isn't really Nick Fury. It was actually Talo or Tallow, and Fury's like right hand person or right hand man was not the real person as well. I forget her name. Forgive me, but it was Taylor's wife in disguise all along as well. So Nick Fury is out in space, the real Nick Fury, and I guess he's trying to build some sort of intergalactical kind of maybe perhaps a connection with other heroes across the galaxy, since probably the universe could use a some sort of like universal sort of Avengers kind of thing. I don't know. It could be something else. That's how I see it, but it would be neat to see more heroes and stuff. And I would like to go back on the fact that, it would be funny that, with the whole thing with Mysterio being essentially fake, Mysterio being from an alternate Earth, dimension whatever. And, the next film or whatever, next couple of films will mention an actual alternate Earth. And if, Quentin was still alive and he heard that and he's like, wait, what? You know what I mean? It would have been a really funny reaction from him, but obviously he's dead, so that's probably not going to happen unless he comes back to life somehow, which is weird. But anyway, it would be a pretty cool idea to, incorporate that. But, it would be funny because it's still possible. I mean, we can't really completely debunk the whole alternate universe myth with, the Marvel stuff. So, I think it will happen at some point. It will be interesting, and probably that whole big spaceship thing with Nick Fury is probably going to be a part of that. So I don't know. That's for us to see, and hopefully the future will hold that answer for us kind of soonish. But probably sometime after Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will provide that answer. I don't know. It's really hard to see what's next beyond Guardians of the Galaxy. So, trying to think of anything else from the spoilers. But yeah, I think that's really all the major points I really wanted to talk about. Mysterio, Mary Jane, the post-credit scenes, and the whole alternate Earth thing. Being debunked for now. But yeah, I think it's still possible. I don't think we should completely rule it out. I think it's definitely still possible for an alternate Earth to come into play, or alternate universe, or parallel universe, multiverse, that whole thing. That will definitely come to play at some point, and it will be really funny and kind of ironic because, that's what Quentin used to make a believable story for the fake Nick Fury, anyway. And then and then they come to know that it's real. You know what I mean? Later on, I think it would be really funny. So yeah. But anyways, again, that's pretty much it. That's all I gotta say about the spoiling points of Spider-Man Far From Home. That's really all I gotta say. I still thought it was a decent film. I didn't enjoy it entirely as much as I did with the first one, if I'm gonna be honest, just because the whole twist with the villain and everything was really good. It was really well done. I really like Michael Keaton in that film. It was really well done. That's all I gotta say to that. So Um, but yeah, that is Far From Home. It's still a 7.5 out of 10. If you guys have any comments or anything like that, thank you guys so much. First off, leave me down below for Spider-Man Homecoming or Far From Home. Excuse me. Sorry, the whole home thing is kind of mixing me up. Leave those. Really leave any related comments in the section below. Really love to check them out. What do you guys think of the film? For those who watched it, of course. I guess for next time, the next film is gonna be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Hopefully, I'll get to that with Danny. Otherwise, I will definitely do a solo review about that because it is a Quentin Tarantino film, which I always look forward to. I love those kind of films. He really does know how to make a unique film, even in this day and age. So, can't wait for that. So, until then, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much, and take care. Sean out.